All right. Happy Easter Sunday. Horse racing Twitter. Um, Great day of racing yesterday from coast to coast. A lot to talk about on a nice Easter Sunday morning. I know our friends in New York are legally not allowed to bet today, but we do have Gulfstream and Santa Anita in the coast to coast, which will be exciting. I have Mr. Raw or Die, the guru himself, Mr. Hellmers, on board today, and we're doing our YouTube channel, The Price is Wrong, which is exciting stuff. We did our first show yesterday, which was a lot of fun. Um, and it's really interesting because we just come from totally separate kind of modes of thinking when it comes to horse racing, right? He's a West Coast guy. Obviously, I'm an East Coast guy. Um, his mathematical skills are well, they kind of dwarf mine, to say the least. And his way of thinking is just a lot different than ours overall in the horse racing community, and that's led to obviously a lot of success for him when it comes to tournament play and horse handicapping and et cetera. So it's kind of two different points of view, which is fun. Christian, I don't know, you can hear me, right? If you want to jump on board and say hello.
There we
There
go.
you go. These West Coast guys, you got to,
I know.
they'll figure it out.
I mean, one day. Yeah, I'm not really that impressed with what happened over the preps, to be honest.
No, I think overall they were underwhelming. I mean, we've seen now this morning a couple buyers come out, and it was nothing too exciting. I think the Chad filly in New York could be something special. I thought Meaning ran up to her reputation. As far as the boys go, I agree. I mean, the Aqueduct buyer, I think I saw this morning, was the lowest number in however many years for the Wood. I don't think Further Ado has any shot in the Kentucky Derby. I think the horse loves Keeneland. I think it's Cox's third best horse. And Santa Anita, listen, the Glatt story is a great story, and it'll make for a fantastic story on Derby weekend. And the same with Mott. Riley Mott and his family have been through a lot. And coming up in his dad's footsteps, I think the Mott story is going to be a big time story on NBC or whoever's covering the Derby this year. So there's some good stories, but I agree. Yesterday, as far as the boys go, nothing that I would say I'm going to bet any of those horses on the first Saturday in May. But the fillies were good.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's fine. I'm just not. I'm just really picky. I wasn't impressed with much. I mean, always respect the horses, but I just wasn't really gonna take much of today and use that for Derby.
Yeah, and it was funny. We did the first show on YouTube yesterday, so I know a lot of people couldn't get on and listen, and we're going to start sharing the links. And I think you guys will really enjoy it because it's a different. We talk horses, but we don't get into the weeds too much and going race by race. But you'll hear a common theme with Helmers, and it's this idea of value and putting an acceptable value and a price on each of your picks, which is kind of cool. It's a different way of looking at the races and trying to find value. And one thing that he does that I can't do is pass on races, and he's trying to teach that to me. So that'll be fun to see how much effect he can have. But he did give me. He told me the one O'Neill horse yesterday. What was it? Peruvian. What was the name of that horse?
Um. Oh, for third and fourth, yeah, the O'Neill horse, Mister Vitruvian or something, I think.
Vitruvi. Yeah, yeah. He goes, this horse is going to run third. So I put 50 to show on the horse, and it paid 190. So that was good.
But
I gave
see,
him a few long shots at Keeneland. One ran great, but got a bad trip and ran third. One had a terrible trip and ran like sixth. And the horse in the big race went to the lead, which I did not see at all, and then faded. The Turfway horse, the Great White. But a fun day of racing, a
yeah,
lot to talk about. Obviously, the uh, CAW action at Keeneland yesterday is going to be a big topic moving forward. If you missed it, which I'm sure a lot of people listening on Twitter did not, because in race 5, Johnny Ortiz was the 12 horse, and I think was, I forget now, 16 or 18 to 1 all the way around the track. And not only was he 16 or 18 to 1 when he crossed the finish line on the Keeneland feed, but in the winner's circle, I think he went down to 14 to 1. And then when the payouts came out, he paid $18. And it was funny because I was texting Stanton this morning and telling him about it because he was there partying and having fun. So he kind of missed it. And he starts yelling at me. He goes, "No, Shoe, they had issues. Those were the $1 payouts. They had Tote issue. They were showing the $1 payout." And I said, "No, that was the $2 payout." So I don't know. Listen, tote security in this sport is at an all-time low. And if you're going to be a billion-dollar industry and you're going to accept wagers from these computer syndicates, that's fine. But you have to secure the tote and put some good faith, or at least give good faith to the gamblers and the horse players around the country that it's a secure game and there's no funny business. And I listen, the exacta came back, I think $107. Uh, the win payout got smashed in the winner's circle. It was about as bad of an optic as we've seen with CAWs. No, I know Helmers. You listen. You talk to these guys. You're in that. I mean, you know some of these guys. I mean, in your opinion, do you think there's any funny business going on with CAW action or the way that we're processing the money through the tote system?
I mean, I would feel naive if I said no to that, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like there's so much money at risk that the operators and the tow companies are going to do, pretty much everything possible. Are we living in the 21st century where AI is like your new girlfriend? Yeah, it's possible that the AI vibe coding stuff could probably find a way to break into the tote systems in some capacity. But I feel like on the flip side, the tote companies can have their own protective measures, and there's regulators. There's there's just too much at stake. I would say it's very minimal if it happens. But again, I don't want to sound naive. I'm sure we all heard about. Remember that Pick Six scandal when the guys were changing the tickets
Yep.
inside? Remember that?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's I think I read something about where it's like you're indexing files. And if technology is that old, those things are easily manipulated. So I would say there's probably a 10% chance that there's some funky monkey business going on that should never be above 1 or 0.5%. So I would say there's probably an issue there, but I don't know if there's a group that has the ability to counter the intelligence that could get into the system. So at the end of the day, this in my opinion, all the betting should be done just through exchanges. Whether it's there's so many better technologies that are available that would end this. But again, you've got a lot of money that's involved in the totes, and there's a lot of money that would take to rebuild everything. So nothing's going to happen until there's a major scandal, and maybe this is turning over one piece of that possibility. I don't know.
Yeah, and the crazy part is, because I remember last fall, there was a race where two long shots. Let me look it up real quick. Two long shots ran 1-2 at Keeneland, and it was on October 16th. And the winner paid $91, and the second place horse paid $41 in the middle. So it was 44 to 1 over 53 to 1. And you'll probably remember this because it
Yeah,
got a lot of buzz
we
on
talked about
Horse
it on your
Racing Twitter.
show. I remember that. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yep. So that exacta that day for a dollar paid 286. All right. So now yesterday we have the race where the odds get crushed in the winner's circle. He ends up going off at 8 to 1. A 22 to 1 shot runs second, and that dollar exacta pays $104. The funny part about it all is both winners were trained by John Ortiz. And I don't know if it's coincidence or if somebody in the John Ortiz camp is firing late, or There's offshore stuff going on.
Wait.
Who knows what?
Didn't we find out that didn't Cummings put together a document that showed it was like 150 or 200 or $300 bet in the last couple seconds?
He came up with something. Yeah, I forget what the exact amount was. And then there was like questions: did the CAW just type it wrong and get it all wrong, and then it ended up being right, and all this nonsense? But it's fishy. And as a horse player, I mean, we play conspiracy theories out on the daily on horse racing Twitter. And I just thought it was a funny coincidence that both races involved John Ortiz.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. I tend to, again, I'm not going to play dumb and say that everything's great, but I will say that um, when something like that happens, when it's two bombs, um, it doesn't feel like, number one, that the intent of a CAW would be to try to smash something like that. And I remember one of the horses there, both these horses had no form. So it was really like, even if somebody had some inside information or knew that the workout was better than it posted, I, 300 bucks on an exact like that. I don't know. I don't think they would be that stupid to try to make a statement on something like that anyway, given the scrutiny that they're under. So I would say, to yesterday's situation, that is totally different, and that is um, bothersome to me in a big way.
Right. I mean, listen, you put a lot of money into this game. Mark's listening. Mark puts a lot of money into this game. A lot of people on here, whether it's $100 a day or $1,000 a day or $5,000 a day, it's meaningful money, right? And when something like that happens yesterday, uh, it, it's 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 not a good sign, and it's a bad look. And I know the folks at Keeneland are going to try to do everything they can to come out with a statement or try to rectify it, but it just looks awful. I mean, the fact that the horse is standing in the winner's circle at 14 or 13 to 1 and then pays $18, it's like, whoa, because I know the industry is late on well, if you're watching on TVG, it's a 40-second delay. And when they get to the first turn, that last tick is not even processed yet, and the tote system's slow. So I think we've all grown accustomed to the first turn or backside when a horse goes from 8 to 1 to 5 to 1 or whatever. You can kind of at this point swallow it because those late CAW bets aren't processed immediately and you're watching on delay. We get that. But when they're crossing the finish line at that price, and then they're taking the picture of the winner's circle at a different price, and then the payouts come out and it goes even lower, yeah, I mean, the conspiracy theories start storming around.
Yeah, I mean, it's horse racing. This is par for the course, right?
But how can you be a multi-billion-dollar industry? I mean, it's the sports books have figured it out to an extent. Um, you just don't see it anywhere else. I can't imagine like casino players. I don't know what the example would be in a casino, but we can relate it to sports and say, well, I got, the Giants -1.5, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, the line went to 3.5. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I love this game, and I just think that there's just been a lot of just laziness, but they'll get it. But that's why we're here. That's why it's the power of the people. You can't expect the government to do anything for you. You got to do it yourself. And in this case, the people need to rise up and they need to speak their minds, and that's what we're doing. And hopefully, these tracks can get clear on. I don't know that we need more. We just need more venture, more transparency, more attention to detail.
Hey, when we talk horse gambling, right? Just in general, you've been doing it for how long? How long have you been playing the
I
ponies?
mean, what do you define as gambling?
I mean, playing the ponies. How long have you been playing the ponies?
Um, I mean, 30 years
Okay. All
plus.
right. So about the same for me, right? I'm sure there's people on here that have been as long or just about. Do you think, in your opinion, today versus 10 years ago, we'll just say 10 years ago, do you think more people are betting offshore than 10 years ago or less?
Okay, so you're talking about an average person like us taking money and setting up an account with a foreign bookmaker and pushing
Yep.
money that way?
Yep.
Um, hmm. Well, I guess there's a trust issue. You have to make sure that the money is going to be returned if you win, which is a big thing. And then
Right.
how much can you bet? If you're not, so you're talking about bigger bettors, right? You're talking about volume of dollars, or you're talking about just individuals?
Both.
Yeah, I would say that, I would say the geezers are not doing that. So I'm talking people under 30, maybe. So I would say very probably one out of few thousand would look to do that. And then there's probably like a good handful of guys, a couple dozen people that have significant dollars that would set it up with exchanges or bookmakers overseas. But keep in mind, if you bet overseas and you try to put money down, you're not going to get more than like five figures down, if that. You won't even get five. You really will struggle to get over $1,000 down. So I don't think that's an issue right now. I think that the bigger issue is the quality of racing is so mediocre that there's not as many good bets anymore, and that there's about 10 days where people can actually make a bet on a good set of races, and then also have the liquidity in the pools.
Fair enough. And the only reason I ask is I've heard more and more owners tell me that they're betting their horses offshore because of CAWs, and they kind of want to hide that money. And
Hmm.
then it also, like, it was interesting because we were talking about, I forget what horse it was, but I'd given you a horse at Keeneland yesterday. I think Dinah. I think it was in the third or fourth race, the turf race. Dinah was the 10, and I think his morning line was 4-1.
Yeah.
And you kind of started looking and you're like, ooh, let me check the offshore odds. And you're like, okay, it's kind of in line. And I'm wondering how many people actually do the work. We talked about it in the group chat this morning a little bit. Like the offshore, I know like Swifty used to do it. I know other people often check the offshore books for, especially on the big race days, right? Like Derby and Belmont and Preakness and is somebody getting played offshore? Breeders' Cup, big time. How often are you checking like offshore odds on horses?
Well, all the time. I mean, I think there's a variety of ways to get the projected odds. So there's American companies that do their best to give their 2 cents at what the odds will be on DRF or StatsLens or those other companies. And then you've got players that individually lay out their own modeling to try to predict it. And then you've got um, the bookmakers. Like, I mean, obviously there's like the Bet 365s. There's just I mean, in the old days it was Pinnacle, and now there's Odds Checker is aggregating a lot of the odds. This isn't that hard to do, just to see what most likely will be the range. It's never foolproof. It just gives you an inclination, because if you say a horse that you like should be 10-1, and then you look over there and you see 20, and then you got to ask yourself, am I a fucking genius, or am I just like a dope? And that's the thing, is like, sometimes you have to think strategically about the type of horse you're going for. If you're going for a horse that's done something well, and he should be 5-1 in your eyes, and he's 4-1 morning line, and he's 8-1 or 9-1, then that's a problem. That means, like, that's a problem. If a horse is an angle horse, like my Vitruvian or whatever, that to me has like very little interesting things about the horse that could show some upside, not for the win, but for third or fourth, and the horse able to win, or sorry, finish third, because you know the Baffert horse backed up, and I didn't really like Intrepido, so it worked out. But when you look overseas, the horse was 30-1 overseas and went off at 50-1 here, and that's again a point where it doesn't really matter if you're playing trifectas. That's all I care about. No offense on the show bet, but if you're gonna try to make a play on it, then it shouldn't influence you whether he's 20-1 or 30-1 or 50-1 overseas. It doesn't matter. It's like an angle play. So really, the only time I think the overseas odds are going to help you is in the lower priced horses, to get an idea. If you're betting a horse between 2 to 1 and 5 to 1, you might be able to get an idea if um, if you're going to get that exact price. But I don't. Yeah, I don't really think that most people care, to be honest. Like, I mean, I think there's probably about 2 out of 10 of us that would care, but I think 80% of people are just going to bet their horse anyway.
No, I get it, but I mean, it's cool to do that. And I know a lot of handicappers don't look offshore and just take. I'm actually looking on odds checker right now at the odds for the Oaks and the Derby. It's pretty good. So that always a runner is 12 to 1 right now. Meaning is the big favorite at plus 350.
Wait, you said 12 to 1, and then you said plus 350. I'm confused.
No, always a runner. The Chad filly is 12 to 1 right now,
Yeah.
and meaning is plus 350.
Oh,
And
meaning.
actually,
I thought you meant something with always a runner.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
missing
no,
up. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, meaning's the favorite with Zany, and then always a runner. That Chad filly's 12 to 1. I thought she was super impressive yesterday. I like her a lot. All right, so that's cool. I mean, so you use odds checker. What else? What other sites did you mention for the
I mean,
folks?
there's a lot of other places you can go. I mean, I would just say if you go to odds checker bet 365, that'll give you enough. Like
Okay.
you don't need to go deep. I mean, you can. I just think that um yeah, I think that's a more controversial conversation too, like because some places you're not going to be able to get those odds unless you sign up for accounts and stuff. But realistically, the game needs love, needs money, and the pool's here. But they gotta make sure they're tight, and there's no perceived issues with these drops like that. Like I still, you know, I don't even. So can you walk me through? So at when they were running around the track, what were the odds? And then after he was in the
So
winter circle, what happened exactly?
so I'll talk. Go on my Twitter feed,
Okay.
and I posted a video of that the owner sent me of the race replay,
Okay.
and you can watch it. The odds like stay the same, cross the finish line, and then the horse is going into the winner's circle and is still like 14 to 1, and then the prices come up and he pays $18.
Okay. So
So you're
that
talking about
yeah.
a three, a literally, I don't know how much time between the start of a race and the horse actually walking in the winner's circle. That has to be what, 5 minutes? You're talking about 5 minutes
Yeah,
post break, and the odds are still changing. That is like unthinkable.
that is unthinkable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm watching this in the background on your thing here. Yeah, they're gonna have some explaining to do. Bottom line.
So in your what do you think? If you had to take a guess, gun to your head, you would say what happened?
I mean, I don't even want to speculate, but I mean, I guess it's a latency issue. Like, there's some feed that didn't come in for some reason because of some pipeline or some kind of congestion in the data feed. I mean, so that's what they'll probably say, but that's most likely what happened is they're getting all these feeds from all over. It's the second day of the meet, and maybe there's some new upgrades in the technology that have when
And it's
when you're merging three different tote companies, which is messy already. So I think ultimately the tote company is the one that needs to step forward and explain what and it's multiple, right? It's tote company, it's racetrack, so they both need to explain that, and then provide some technical documentation that some of the the AI or the tech wizards can review and take a look and say, yeah, this checks out. I would say that would be helpful, and maybe even have someone from the technical team, walk people through how this happens. I think that would be really, really, really nice. The other option is, yeah, somebody somehow, some way was able to push money in late, but there should be a document, there should be a record of that. There should be a file that's indexed, and somebody could look at that and say, okay, who has access to these indexed files? Let's look at their passwords, go through the system, find out did anybody log into the system, within 5 minutes of that last race, and double check internally to make sure that nothing's going on as well. And that would make me feel good, but I don't think we'll get that.
No, I don't either. And the problem is, like most horse players, we all think the same way, is that the odds went down, not up, and the horse won, didn't lose. So you add it all together, and our conspiracy minds get together. But yeah, it was a crazy situation. But I'm looking at the Derby money line, or the money line odds on Odds Checker, and I've told the group chat this. I don't know how you feel about it. I still think Renegade is the horse to beat, and he's the clear cut 7-2 favorite on Odds Checker. Clear cut. Further Ado is 7-1. I don't think Further Ado, he loves Keeneland. He ran huge there, but the Puma kicked his ass with a terrible trip at Tampa. So I don't know how you bet Further Ado over the Puma in the Kentucky Derby. There's no way. Chief Wallaby, kind of funny, is 16-1, and he's on the outside looking in. But we should have a good. I mean, the first Saturday in May and the Oaks are looking like good races. Poor Baffert has gone through, I don't know, 20-30 million dollars worth of horses, and maybe he'll have that one run. I mean, running for eighth or ninth, that'll be exciting for him and all his owners. Chad will be looking back saying what happened, because I mean, Canaletto's form has been um, flattered by all these races, and he's only got one left. But yeah, it's a grind. The getting to the Derby is a grind, and we see a lot of good horses kind of go by the wayside, and then you see, the Wood yesterday with an 80, what was it, 83 or 84 buyer.
Oh
And
my
took that
God, they
again.
gave it that slow, really?
That was I think it was either the lowest in Wood history, or I'd have to look up the tweet. I think it was probably Aragona, because he's Mr. Buyer speed figure. I'm pretty sure Aragona tweeted that he got like an 80. It was the lowest maybe ever.
I mean, it goes back to the point that the horses have been bred for speed for so long now. Where here we are, 10, 15 years later, and the stamina influence is nil. And it shows up in the European turf races, or the turf races that are really Breeders' Cup, European races. They're not American races. It shows up in the I mean, what was it? I don't know if you saw my post about the Santa Anita handicap this year. Did you see that?
No, that was a bad one.
No, it was the third slowest Santa Anita handicap in the history of the race. So it was on fat, and it wasn't on a slow muddy track. It was on a normal fast track. So when you see horses running I think what was it, like 205 and change, 206 or something. So the fact is that the horses are getting slower. And when the horses are getting slower, there's a lot more difficulty in figuring out how to bet them. It's like if you're betting the Cleveland Browns playing, the New Orleans Saints every weekend, and it's a Super Bowl playoff game, that's a problem. And that's kind of the thing that sucks, is you can't break it down the same way as if you have reliable data. So I'm just, like I said, I'm a little disappointed with how the horses are running at the at the top levels now.
It's wild, and we push them so hard in the mornings, and we try to get the best. And we got 5 or 6 barns controlling what 80% of the horses in this country, which just isn't working. And that's why it's great to see somebody like Riley Mott, who now has 2 Derby horses, and some of these smaller barns like Mark Glatt now have a Derby horse, because the days of Baffert and Todd and Brad and Chad and these same Steve, like these same 5 or 6 trainers just going through 200 2-year-olds to get that one Derby runner. It's just a broken model. It is absolutely broken. Now I see Aragona tweeted out an hour ago that the buyer speed figure for the Tampa Bay Derby, which was run how long ago, has been retroactively upgraded to a 94. Some things in this game just make you laugh. So the Saturday Derby buyer numbers: Further Ado got a 106, So Happy got 100, and Albus, the horse that won the Wood, got an 83.
Yeah, but it goes back to what I said yesterday. What does a number mean? It's like everyone loves to hang their hat on
Oh,
a number because it gives
yeah.
them confidence. Oh my God, I have this number. I've calculated it this way. The ground loss, the weight, the wind. It's fine. Go ahead. If you're profitable using one number, then do that. And I invite you to think about the complexity anytime you're trying to figure out how fast a horse is, because there are many, many, many components to coming up with a illustration of a horse. Like you're not even, keep in mind, you can come up with a number and get it right. And let's say you got it right. Let's say you did something really special, you got it right. Okay, well then what do you do when you're trying to predict what the horse is going to run next? And that's the thing, is like you may have like an accuracy with your figure calculations, but what does that translate into the next time? So those are two totally separate things.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I tried to fade buyers as much as I can. I don't. I think buyers were a good figure 10 or 15 years ago, and they've just gone downhill. I think they're completely barn biased. I think there's a lot of flaws in them. I know my buddies love Thorograph. They love the rags, but you're right. Predicting from one race to the next is so hard. And example A is the Chad horse yesterday, the filly. I think she ran a 59 buyer, something like that, in her debut at Tampa. And our buddy Cope was in the group chat yesterday, and he's like, "Man, you got to go watch this filly's race. Like, I know it came back slow, but go watch that race." And when you use your eyeballs and you go back and watch replays, which to me is still the best way to handicap races, it was one of the most spectacular, debuts you've ever seen. And so you take that 59 and you just flush it down the toilet and you just trust in what your eyes see. And she ran huge yesterday. And I think she paid $11 and change. I think she went off at 9-2. So
Yeah, I mean
props to
that, like
Cope.
that's this art science relationship, paradox, whatever you want to call it. And then you have your own emotion that gets involved in these decisions. But when you're thinking about how to predict the future, there's going to be the laws of physics. Then there's going to be the art of the quantum stuff, light moving as a wave and a particle kind of thing, where you're, and I know that's probably not what you're gonna like understand, but there's like these complexities around, what does it really mean? If somebody comes up to you and says something, they might be saying it in a certain way, but it means something totally different because of the way they're standing, or clinching their their words, or faking a smile, or nervous or manipulative, whatever. So to me, it's this dance between those two things, and then you have the emotion of how you react to those things, so that you can be clear and be like, okay, this is actually um, a horse, and you can be biased because you like a horse, or you don't like a horse, or you like a trainer, or you don't like a jockey, whatever. But if you can just be clear and just be, all right, this is the price I need. Like I need 4-1. That's gonna be the minimum I would ever accept, and those are the hard boundary conditions that people in the game need. And there's just a lack of discipline right now, which is one of the reasons I want to do this show with you. Is I really want to, you have your style of handicap, and I mine. Obviously, we're probably coming from different places on that, and it'll be fun, I think, for people to understand a little bit more about someone that's hardcore, engineering style, spiritual, whatever. But for you, I think you represent, a guy who's very like passionate and very deep. You probably know way more about the intricacies of the game than me. I kind of treat this more systematically, and I try to put things into groups and patterns, and there's a little bit of, um, I don't know. I'm distancing myself in some ways from the truth of the game by doing that. I'm being more robotic, but that's what makes it fun, is to hear your opinions too, and then bounce back and forth.
Yeah. And you kind of keep like you said, your emotions out of it, where most of us who are on here listening or that you see at the racetrack are full of emotion and bet with their heart instead of their head. And I think that's the battle that we all face, and that's the battle that I think, what is it? The last number I got was 92% of horse players are losing money at the year end, right? And so we'd love to improve that and get more than 8% winning some money in this game. But you have to have discipline. And like you said, you got to keep your emotion, to the most part, out of it and kind of trust in the process. Don't bet every single race that's going on at every racetrack at the OTB or like Monmouth Park yesterday, where everybody's running to the teller machine, 400 times a day and yelling at the guy or gal in front of them saying, hurry up. But that's the beast. And that's just like going to a casino. You see the same thing at casino gamblers. uh, Discipline is a lost art. So that's why I love talking to you, and I think this show is going to be a lot of fun because we'll get more personal and we'll get more into the whatever that word is, intricacies of betting on horses and managing your budget, and whether it's playing in a tournament or just playing, you know, Gulfstream Park in Santa Anita today on a beautiful Easter Sunday.
Yeah,
But I
happy
think
Easter. Hey, let me ask you real quick before we
sure.
bounce off. Do you have a well, if you had to think about the storylines for the Derby this year, what would be your top 3 or 4? Like, what do you think that
I
and
think we
I'm
have
not looking at this. I'm not looking at this for like a Disney after school special. I'm talking about like what are going to be the 3 or 4 questions that people are going to be asking about the probably more we're talking probably about more of the top 5 or 6 horses here, but what are going to be the main narratives you think?
I think Riley Mott's a huge story, and if you know Riley Mott's personal story, you're going to hear about it a lot over the upcoming weeks leading up to the Derby, which will be special because coming in the footsteps of his father and what he's gone through as a dad, and having 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby, I think that's going to be a big time story. I think the Mark Glatt story, obviously losing his wife, is going to be a huge story. I think, Brad Cox and which Brad Cox is the one to beat and which horse does Irad, because Irad rode now what the 3 probable favorites in the Kentucky Derby, which horse he'll choose, which will be Renegade for sure. Um, will Mike Rapoli get his first Kentucky Derby because he'll be favored, and he knows how to dominate the airwaves, and we're going to see a lot of Mike, and he's got a big filly in Zany, and he's got the Kentucky Derby favorite in Renegade. So that'll be a huge story. Whether Bob gets in or not and puts that one in, or it has no Derby horses, might be a story for some. And I don't know. I think that just about covers. I'm sure there'll be others along the line, but I think those are going to be the main stories, don't you?
I think yeah, I think from a I agree with all that. I do think there's going to be some discussion around pace and what's this Derby pace will probably be average at best, and is that going to lean towards a more forward type horse that typically wins the Derby? Are some of these horses that are sitting farther back that are favored gonna have too much to do? I mean, if I had to say the biggest storyline that hasn't been said yet, it's probably going to be which horse is working the best at going up to the Derby. I think the workouts are going to be really important this year.
Always, but they're always overblown. And then you get the buzz horses. I think Reagan's horse and Jake Ballas have the horse coming in from Dubai. That's going to be a big speedball. So I think that'll be a horse that I don't know. I haven't looked at the figures for forward pace yet for the entire field, but I know that horse is going to be winging up top. So
Mm.
that'll be an interesting player for Reagan and Jake and George Weaver. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the pace. Most of these big runners are. Let's see. I mean, most of them are coming from off. I mean, the Pumas and off the pace. Let me go back to the. Let's see. So the favorites, Renegades off the pace. Commandment um, is off, right? Further Ado's coming from off. The Puma's coming from off. So Happy has the speed figures early, but as we saw yesterday and in his training, Gladness had that kind of horse just sitting right off. Chief Wallaby, if he gets in, is an off the pace horse. So yeah, there are a lot of off the pace on paper type horses, which actually makes 6 speed and that horse coming in from Dubai really interesting. So yeah, that's always fun. The workouts are always fun. I know the folks at Churchill and what's his name, Kevin Kirstein, and the crew over there do a great job posting the Derby works every year leading up to it. Um, but yeah, that's when it gets fun, right? I mean, those Derby mornings. That's where we'll miss like the TVG and FanDuel coverage. Like the breakfast of the Breeders' Cup when they're showing works and talking to the connections, and Derby Week when they're talking to everybody and showing the workouts. And I know everybody loves the videos and pictures of horses getting baths in the barn area. That's always a hit with horse racing Twitter. But yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm hoping a lot of people come on the show and ask questions and share stories, and at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we can help people make better decisions. And I know you like to put values, and you were grilling me yesterday about, all right, what percentage do you think this horse has, or if they ran 50 times, how many times would this horse win the race? And when you like sit back and think of it that way, it's hard. I was struggling to answer you. I was like, geez, I don't know, 5 times out of 50, I don't know. But when you put it in those terms, and then you talk about putting your hard-earned money on a horse who's 12 to 1 or 3 to 1 or whatever it might be, like it just makes you think a little bit differently about it.
Absolutely. That's the whole thing, that it's like any kind of decision in life. We have the subconscious that's going to tell us like intuitively what to do, or it's the shadow stuff that's like, making us, eat ice cream in the middle of the night, or, have that drink, or not check our bank account or whatever it is. But like you just have to have structure. Like, and when you're playing with money and you're playing with gambling, like we have to have like a framework. And that's why I really encourage everyone to think about putting a number on a horse. And if you like probabilities, use probabilities. If you're used to odds, use odds. But they're the same thing. And okay, if you're gonna group your 5 to 1s together that you've bet in the last 2 months, look at your 5 to 1s. Did they win one out of 5 times or 6 times? Because if they won out of 1 out of 6 times, that means you break even. That means you're not even making money. So you're just playing the game for entertainment, which is fine. Just know what you're doing. Like, if you're gonna do that, stick to that stick to that entertainment tax, and just understand that that's you're giving up your time to watch that, or watch a football game, or go to the beach. So, but if you're actually trying to make money, and if your 5 to 1 shots are winning, 1 out of 4 times or 1 out of 5 times, or let's say 1 out of 4, you're making a profit. And that's where you need to really understand what you're doing. And if you find that maybe your long shots are better, and you're hitting, like, you brought up some nice long shots yesterday, and granted they didn't run, but you at least had the confidence to take a stand. And if you played 20 of them, if one of them wins out of 20 and they're 20 to 1, you're still breaking even. But all it takes is 2 out of 20, and you're a god,
Yeah, that's the thing. 1 out of 3 in baseball, you're in the Hall of Fame. Horse players, I don't know what the number is, but like you said, based on odds and based on how you're playing, and that's the goal, right? To make money and get in the Hall of Fame and start winning contests, and seeing a green that doesn't say 5 cents, which I'm looking at on my betting account right now. I see 5 cents in there. I can't even
Wait, I thought
afford
you
a
told
ten
me you
cent.
put $50 down on Vitruvian Man to get your
I
stuff.
know. I'm looking at
Did
my
you bet it
TVG.
on the next race?
No, I'm looking at my
I'm
TVG.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I have my 4NJ Bets account that I don't use, and I just keep it up there for replays and stuff. There's been 5 cents in it for 3 years now.
Okay, that's
But
fair.
no, I ended up the day okay because I had the Glatt double, but then I'm
Nice.
kicking myself because I played the Glatt double, and a lot of times, which you probably wouldn't agree with because I'm sure it goes against a lot of math, but a lot of times if I like Glatt or I like a connection and a double, I'll just play all on the pick four and just play 50 cent pick four, Glatt, all. And if I did that yesterday, I paid 7,200, I think.
Okay. Wow.
So I blew that, but
Yeah,
it
I
was a
mean,
fun.
that's the thing, is it's always hindsight. But okay, man. Well,
Numbers.
that was great. I'm glad you get to spend some quality Easter Sunday time with me out here in Cali, and that you get to ignore your family. So thank you.
Yes, yeah. I took the girls out to see after a long day of handicapping at Monmouth and fire and bets. I took the girls to go see Super Mario Brothers in the movies last night.
Oh,
And Sky, my 12-year-old, made me buy her a is it Yosha? What's the dinosaur? Yosha? Yoda? What is it?
Yoshi. I don't know. Yeah.
Yoshi, yeah. A Yoshi popcorn like cup that was $55. So I spent $55 on a Yoshi popcorn bowl for Sky yesterday. So that's how my night ended. But yeah, we're gonna get together later. I might take him to the driving range and hit some golf balls. if it gets a little bit nicer. But yeah, this is fun.
Nice.
I'll schedule the shows and put them out there on Twitter. We're gonna be on YouTube, and we'll be able to share that link with Helmers, and come on board, ask questions. We're gonna have a chat. But we want to, at the end of the day, connect with the horse players and hopefully help us understand our flaws and how to maximize our profits, minimize our losses, and just think a little bit more strategically on how we spend our money in this sport. But it was fun this morning. Happy Easter to everyone. Have a great day. I talked to Stacy this morning, and she's complaining because she has to work today because Stronach is the only tracks that run on Easter Sunday. But it looks like a decent card at Gulfstream and Santa Anita. The coast to coast will be fun. I'm sure Stanton will put out a $500,000 ticket for the coast to coast that he'll probably go 3 out of 5 on. But good luck to everybody. Happy Easter. Helmers, thanks as always, brother. And we'll talk to you all soon.